The Patient Clay. The town of Millhaven was built on thick, gray clay. It was terrible for foundations, but perfect for pottery. And for 3 generations, the Halverson family had run the kiln at the edge of the bog. Their pieces, smooth, strangely warm to the touch, and a perfect uniform gray, were prized. They never cracked, they never broke. People whispered the clay was special. Ilara Halverson, the current potter, knew the secret. It wasn't the clay, it was what you gave to it. Her grandmother's journal was clear. The clay is hungry. It accepts an offering to bind its form. A lock of hair in the mix gives resilience. A drop of blood gives a warm finish. A secret whispered into the wet lump before firing gives it a beloved feel. Ilara had followed the rules, using trimmings and pricked fingers, whispering petty secrets. The pottery thrived. But business was fading. A factory in the next town made cheaper, brighter mugs. Desperate, Ilara looked at the aging entry she'd always avoided. For a piece of profound, undeniable beauty, a masterpiece that will be craved, the clay must be fed a profound truth. Not a secret, a truth. The kind that cracks a soul. One rain-lashed night, staring at a lump of wet clay, she spoke her truth. It was the thing she had carried since she was 16, the memory that sat behind her eyes every night. She told the clay about the accident at the old quarry, her friend Liam's hand slipping from hers, the sound, the silence after. She told it of the lie she told to everyone, including herself, that it wasn't her fault. She poured the whole wretched story into the gray mass, her tears mixing with the mud. Exhausted, she formed a simple, elegant vase and fired the kiln. The result was not gray. It was a deep, shifting color, like a bruise or a twilight sky, shot through with veins of iridescent silver. It was heartbreakingly beautiful. It felt alive in her hands, humming with a low thermal pulse. She sold it the next day to a wealthy collector from the city for a staggering sum. Ilara thought she'd bought her future, but the clay had developed a taste. The next piece she made with a mere drop of blood came out brittle and ugly, shattering in the kiln. The clay now rejected small offerings. It wanted more truth. So trembling, she fed it another. The time she'd stolen money from her mother's purse and let the maid be fired. The clay absorbed it and produced a set of bowls of such luminous, sorrowful beauty that people wept to look at them. They sold instantly. A cycle began. To keep the kiln working, to keep her business alive, Ilara had to mine the deepest, darkest chambers of her conscience. Every shame, every cruelty, every hidden jealousy was dug up and fed to the patient clay. With each truth, the pottery became more stunning, more magnetic. And with each truth given, Ilara felt lighter, emptier, as if her moral core was being hollowed out to make room for more clay. Then came the cold morning she had no truths left. She stood before a new lump, her mind scraped clean of guilt. The kiln was cold. The shop was empty. She had nothing left to fee it. The clay, she realized, was no longer in the bin. It was waiting. It coated the floor in a thin, seeking film. It oozed from the sack in the corner, forming a small, wet mound in the center of the workshop. It had learned to move. A deep, resonant hunger, not a sound but a feeling, filled the room. It wasn't satisfied with confessed truths anymore. It wanted the source. It wanted the soul that harvested them. It wanted her. She backed toward the door, but the clay was there first, rising up the wood in a slick, gray wave, sealing the exit. It peeled from the walls, dripped from the ceiling, converging on her from all sides. The last masterpiece pieces on the shelves, the vase, the bowls, softened and slumped, returning to their hungry, primal form, joining the advance. It did not rush. It was patient clay. It had been fed for generations, and now it would consume the feeder. It slid over her boots, a sensation not of wetness, but of a million tiny sucking mouths. She opened her mouth to scream, and a tendril, cool and soft, slipped past her lips, filling the space where her truths had been. The next day, a delivery man found the workshop spotless. The kiln was warm. On the central wheel sat a single final piece. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen, a sculpture of a woman's face, caught in a moment between terror and ecstasy, made of shifting gray and brilliant silver. It felt warm, almost heartbreak warm to the touch. It was priced astronomically, with a note in Ilara's hand that read, "The masterpiece." It sold within the hour. The buyer placed it on his mantle, where he often found himself, late at night, whispering his own secrets to it. He found it comforting. The sculpture never changed, never reacted. It simply sat, beautiful and patient, waiting for its new home to be full of enough whispered truths to finally wake up
and hunger again.